Okay, so we'll talk a bit about system hacking, as we already mentioned. We'll go through each one of the stages. Can't really see. You may have to make an update there. But we'll go through the, we've already talked about enumeration of the system, being able to identify what the potential vulnerabilities within the system are, being able to detect and find those particular systems that you may have vulnerabilities for, okay? And then actually going through the process. Next. Okay, so one of the main things, especially we talk about some of the vulnerability assessments and activities that occur within the industry, being able to get onto those systems and utilize these is not necessarily for the purpose of finding usernames and passwords for that particular system, since you've already gained access. It's about gaining further access into other system resources. So that may be other devices external to the system that can be utilized. You're going to hear a little bit about NTLM, LM hash, as far as Microsoft is concerned, being able to go after those SAM files and being able to find those hashes. Everybody familiar with the difference between the LM hash, NTLM? Okay. One of the things that you should do is be able to specify the size of those NTLM hash values. Okay. I actually remember a question that specifically showed a set of hashes, and it said what type of hashing technology is this that you're seeing? So it's very important to be able to identify what those pieces of information are. Next. Okay. LAN manager hash. Talked a little bit about it. A couple of different tools that are shown up here, pwdump and fgdump. Are very helpful because they allow you to be able to dump those while the system is running. If you don't have a tool such as this, you can't just go ahead and dump a file. It's not like you have a notepad text file and you open it up and it shows you all the information. If that system is actively engaged, unless you have one of those tools, you won't be able to gain access to those, right? Salting, anybody familiar with the term salting? Okay, so in order to prevent a hash from being seen multiple times and people getting at least a little bit of information, hey, we've got similar passwords, what the salt does is it allows you to actually add a portion to it to prevent that from occurring. Okay, so you could then literally see two hash values that look different, but it's the same password because there were different hash values that were added in. Okay, so that would definitely be asked or talked about. Lowcrack is a tool that can be utilized in order to gain access to those hash values. Right. One of the things that you can do with Lowcrack is you can actually use a live distribution of it with your thumb drive. And once the machine is powered down, you could physically gain access to the system, plug it in. It will boot right into Lowcrack and automatically attempt to dump the system files. Okay, and it will automatically attempt to crack the hash if it can. So depending on how big your drive is, will depend on how big your rainbow table is. Okay, we'll actually talk a little bit here about the rainbow table and why that's more significant than just trying to do a straight up crack without it. Okay, key enable. That's an older tool utilized in Windows. Anybody's ever used that before? Yeah, so it's one of those things where you can do a wide variety of activities with it. One of the things I've noticed over the last at least couple of years is that as you put it onto a system, it automatically catches every single time with every antivirus and other type of system. So you kind of have to do some special things in order to make it run. But that's a great tool and something for which you should keep a whole copy of in case you see old systems. Okay. Okay, so we talked a little bit about rainbow tables, but anybody familiar with what a rainbow table is? Yes, sir.
Are they hashed iterations of passwords? It's just a brute force, try this, it fails, try the next, it fails, correct?
Yeah, so what would be the value of using the hashed version of the password and then testing it versus the password and then hashing it and then testing it? Absolutely right. And that's really what it comes down to. There are a number of resources online if you're familiar with CrackStation. CrackStation would allow you to throw in a hash and see if you have a match already out there on the net. It's great, very helpful. I think they said something like 3 terabytes worth of hashes that have already been provided. And so as they see more hashes, they put them into their database, they continue to collect it, and it becomes a repository for hashes so you don't have to do it yourself.
What was the name of that?
CrackStation.
Crackstation.net.
Yeah.
Not to be confused, the place where you go get crack.
Yeah, that would not be the place that I was talking about. Okay. And so when you do see the difference between a discussion in the exam about being able to take something and then hash it and then test it versus a rainbow table, then generally the rainbow table is the better way to go, simply because of the time factor. Okay? Next slide. Kerberos, currently in version 5. Anybody use this for their authentication mechanisms? All right. It's very important in terms of being able to go through the 4-way handshake in order to get the tickets that are required in order to gain access to that system. All right. A lot of discussion about multi-platform networks and being able to use an SSO technology. And so that single sign-on, what does that help you do? If you're doing a lot of different system administration or access to a lot of different systems, what does that SSO help you with? That's right. Okay. So is there any inherent security issues with having a situation like that?
We get physical access to a chain.
Yep, pretty much toast. So there should certainly be some security, fallback plans in case something like that happens, like replication of those particular certificates or ticket granting tickets that need to be resolved before you start moving forward with it. Okay.
So one thing to add here, we'll be talking more about Kerberos with the cryptography domain. Traditionally on the test, you'll have 3 to 5 that talk about the 3-headed dog gatekeeper of the Greek underworld. But specifically, usually what we see for Kerberos is tickets please, tickets please, and ticket granting service or ticket, anything with ticket in it, you'll see. So tickets. And Jason touched on that right there.
Okay. LM hash backward compatibility. All right, so some systems may require that. Once again, though, it's a much less secure hashing method. So generally, you need to consider that before you move forward, but there may be some systems that still have a requirement for it. Okay, some of the things that you can do to defend against password cracking. And even, we're talking hash cracking too. Anybody familiar with the MD5 hashing mechanism? So MD5 is much more exploitable simply because it's been out there for a long time. People really know how to utilize it, and they started to have a problem with what they call collisions. So you could very well have 2 different things that would hash to the same exact value. Because if you remember, the MD5 hash is only 32 bits long, whereas something like SHA-1 is 128 bits long, okay? Or bytes long. And so what the problem winds up coming up with those is ensuring that you can prevent somebody from cracking that hash quickly. Okay? Privilege escalation. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about privilege escalation.
Logging in as a standard user.
Okay. Okay, so it's very familiar, a lot of things that you see, even with Linux side, the way in which some of the systems are configured will allow very simple scripts to allow a escalation of privilege. And they give them the ability to either create users, change passwords, and so on and so forth. All right. Okay, keyloggers and spyware. So there's a couple of different things to consider here, because when we talk about keyloggers, it could either be a physical device into the system or a piece of software. Okay, so a piece of malware that then attempts to collect those keystrokes in order to gain information about the system. Okay, spyware. Anybody familiar with that terminology? All right, so I think everybody's pretty familiar. We're just talking about a piece of code that operates. It may give you some functionality of some kind. You think it's useful, but there's actually something else going on in the background to gain information about you and your activities on your system. Next. Okay, rootkits. So a lot of times, these types of malware are trying to operate without being seen. They're trying to prevent users from actually identifying that anything is actually going on. Some of the earlier versions of rootkits would simply take even the most basic system functionality and prevent you from being able to utilize it. So, for example, where before, remember, we type in pwd to see what the present working directory is? Well, there would be rootkits that would be written to take out system functionality, and you type pwd in there, and it would say, command not found. Okay, it's in there, but it's because of a rootkit that's preventing those system functions from being able to be utilized. Okay, anti-rootkit tools, rootkit revealer and rootkit detective. All right, once again, they're looking for a lot of the hidden activities that are going on in the background in order to detect if that rootkit is actually taking hold or not. Right? And a lot of the things that you will see in the exam will be specified what kind of malicious software will hide a process or prevent a system functionality from occurring. In this particular case, it would be the rootkit.
Has anybody ever played with these before?
I've looked into them before. The question I have about those two, and probably most of them, is: are they signature-based? Or are they heuristic-based?
So what you're talking about is being able to detect them, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so in that particular case, if it was a signature-based thing, then it's going to do everything it can to take any signature. However, they have done some good work, especially on the McAfee side, to be able to detect those. We'll talk a little bit about alternate data streams here in a second, and there's a lot of really important information about how they wind up hiding those processes.
Yeah, and in my experience here with these anti-rootkits, typically they don't work. So what do you end up having to do to the box usually? Just reload it, usually with the operating. And that sucks, but that's usually what you end up having to do.
And the challenge is, that's fine, we can move on. The challenge is, one of the things that we've noticed is when something is detected as an issue that's going on in the system, it could very well be that even after you reload that particular system, there may be some amount of persistence that they have even after the system has been completely wiped. So some really interesting discussions about how we've seen that you see it on network traffic. It's pretty interesting. They'll go ahead and clean it, and then they'll still have some issue going on. Okay, so this is a good lead into the NTFS data stream. All right. AES scan engine, all right, that allows you to take a look at those data streams and detect what's going on. Anybody familiar with NTFS? What are we talking about when we're talking NTFS? Okay. Right. The bottom line is, a lot of times when you take the exam, they will be talking about covert channels. If they mention covert channel and they give you one of these as the solution, a covert channel by which information that an attacker wants to prevent a defender from seeing, then the alternate data stream is a good selection for that one. Next. Steganography. Okay, so essentially being able to hide a message inside of another message or another technology. A lot of the ones that you see are a little bit older, generally early 2000s, late 90s, that attempted to take a space that was available inside, say, of an image, and then pack a message into the white space, if you will. Couple of different things, though. If you're really into this sort of thing, I think of this more as a toy capability where you can take a couple of tools and pack information, because it's very easy to see if you have an original image to be able to see that a steganography image is packed with additional information. If you compare them, you take a look at them, it's very clear that there's other stuff going on there. Okay. Couple of examples there: video stag our secret. There's an MP3 for audio, and then being able to actually hide folders as well. Okay, but a lot of times what they're looking for here, much like with the alternate data streams, is the covert channel to be able to transmit information that you wouldn't necessarily see.
So, and typically on the exam, we usually see steganography focused on specifically 5 to 7 questions on different types of stego, they call it. Even though it's steganography, they say stego. Usually it's hidden in an image, could be hidden in a video, could be hidden in audio, and that would be some sort of steganography, just like Jason said, that it's a covert channel. They focus on this on the exam, and if you want to get 5 to 7 questions correct, this is a good topic to go through and enumerate and learn.